Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Empty Cloud Monastery. This morning we'll be looking at a few verses from the Dhammapada. So we can start by paying homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. So this morning we'll be having a look at Dhammapada verses 95, 96, and 97. So these are three verses from the Arahanta Vagga, so the chapter on Arhants, chapter on awakened beings. So the Dhammapada it's one of these sections of the Pali Canon, which is, I think it's possibly the single most widely translated section of the Pali Canon, like the most variety of translations available. I remember a while back I counted up all the different translations, and it was something like 4 dozen or something. So there's no shortage of Dhammapada translations. However, many of them are quite inaccurate. So there's a lot of translations out there, but the accuracy of them is mostly relatively low. And the Dhammapada is also notable, besides having such an incredible number of English translations available. It's also notable in that for many people, this is the first part of the Sutta Pitaka that they read. And for many people, it's the only part of the Sutta Pitaka that they read. And both of these things I find quite strange, because the Dhammapada is actually a very profound and complex document, which doesn't really make much sense out of the context of the rest of the Sutta Pitaka. So without having read most of the other suttas, the Dhammapada actually doesn't make that much sense. It's not something which is easy to understand. So there's often this pervasive idea that the Dhammapada is a beginner level text, which is good for people who are new to the Pali Canon. But actually, I say it's exactly the opposite. I say the Dhammapada is an advanced text, which is for people who have already read the rest of the Pali Canon. That said, I'll go through a few verses. So I had previously I'd gone through a number of selected verses from the first 90 or so verses of the Dhammapada. So picking up with that again, I'll read through a few more. So the verses we selected today, 95, 96, and 97. We'll start with verse 95. So in Pali it says, Patavi samo no virujati, indiki lupamo tadi supato, rahadova apeta kadamo, sangsara nabhavanti tadino. So as with most of the Dhammapada, this is set in 4 distinct phrases. So the first one, patami visamo no virujati. So patavi samo means like the earth, in the same way as the earth. So patavi as earth, and sama means same or equal to or like. So it's similar to the English word similar or same. No means no. Virujati means to obstruct or oppose or be in opposition to. So this first line is saying one who does not oppose anything. They're not opposed to anything. Or alternately, you could translate this, one who is not obstructed by anything. But I think the meaning here is one who doesn't oppose anything. Just like the earth. So this is similar to the Maharahula Vada Sutta, where the Buddha says to Rahula, be like the earth. So just as people can spit on the earth or bleed on the earth or urinate on the earth or throw trash on the earth, and the earth is not bothered. In the same way, no matter what people say to you or what sensations you experience, then be like the earth. Don't be bothered. So I suspect the meaning here is the same. So just as the earth doesn't oppose anything, it's patient and tolerant of any contact. In the same way, we should have that same kind of mind, a mind like the earth, that opposes nothing and is affected by nothing. And indaki lupamo tadi subato. So indakila means a pillar. And this was, so kila means a post or a pillar. And the word inda refers to one of the high-ranking devas. So one of the deva lords. So an indakila was a particularly strong and powerful post. So a pillar that's deeply rooted in the earth. So it's thick, it's strong, something which is not easy to shake. So this comes up as a simile in the suttas in a number of places. So the indakila, a pillar that's been firmly rooted in the ground. It's powerful and hard to knock off its place. And upama means simile or metaphor. So indaki lupamo means, again, in the manner of a strong pillar. So like a powerful pillar. Tadi subato, tadi means one like this. And subato is from the word vata. So the word vata means a spiritual practice or vow or some kind of religious commitment that one takes on. And the prefix su means good or well. So subata means one who has a good spiritual practice, one who has taken on good vows, good spiritual practices. So here the Buddha is pointing out that having a strong commitment to good vows and spiritual practices makes one like a pillar. So something which can hold up your practice, can hold up your spiritual development. And rahadova apetikadamo. So rahada means a lake. So rahadova means like a lake. And apetikadamo means without any mud. So rahadova apetikadamo means a lake with no mud. So a completely clear, pure, clean lake of water. And samsara na bhavanti tadino. So samsara is the world of suffering and confusion. So the world of conditional phenomena which we all live in. And what we're trying to get free of through Buddhist practice. Na bhavanti tadino. So bhavanti means coming into being or existing. And tadino again means one like this. So he's saying for one like this, there is no more samsara. Or samsara does not come into being for people like this. So people who, like the earth, oppose nothing and who have a good spiritual practice, which is as firm and steady as a pillar, and whose mind is like a completely clear, pure, and clean lake of water. So for people like this, there is no more samsara. They're no longer caught in the cycle of birth and death, of suffering and confusion. Then verse 96, this one says, Santang tasa manang hoti, santa vacha chikamacha, samadanya vimuttasa upasantasa tadino. So this verse, santang tasa manang hoti. Santang means peaceful. Santa, it's actually spelled the same as the word Santa, which means saint. And in Pali, the word Santa means peaceful. So santang tasa manang hoti, and mana is mind. So one whose mind is peaceful. Santa vacha chakamacha. Vacha is speech, related to the word vocal. So vacha, speech, and kamma means action. So this is the word karma, literally means action. So here it's saying someone whose mind is peaceful, whose speech is peaceful, whose actions are peaceful. And the next line, samadanya vimuttassa. So samma means correct or complete or proper or appropriate or harmonious. Anya means knowledge, so knowing. So from the root nya means to know. And from this root nya, we get many Pali words. So we get anya. It's also where we get the word panya, the word jnana, the word sanya, the word vijnana, and many other Pali words. They have this root nya, which means to know. And vimuttassa. So vimutta means liberated, completely free. So samadanya vimuttassa means one who is liberated through correct knowledge, through an accurate understanding, a complete and thorough, direct knowledge of the nature of reality. The Buddha says, upasantassa tadino. So tadino, such a person, upasantassa is at peace. So this is that same word santa, which means peace, and with the prefix upa, which means to be very close to something. So upasanta means one is at complete peace. So to have a peaceful mind, peaceful speech, peaceful actions, and to be completely liberated through correct knowledge. And this is knowledge of the Four Noble Truths, knowledge of the three characteristics of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. So anicca, dukkha, anatta. So directly seeing the Four Noble Truths and the three characteristics in our experience is what leads to liberation through right knowledge, samadanya vimutta, as listed in this verse. And then finally, the third verse of the Dhammapada that we'll be looking at this morning. So this one in Pali, and this is absolutely hilarious in Pali. And there's really no way to capture this in translation, so I'll have to explain why this is amusing. So in Pali it says, asaddo akatanyucha, sandit chedo chayonaro, hatavakaso vantaso, save uttamaporaso. So this whole verse is a pun. Like this whole section here is a pun because it has two completely opposite meanings. So you can read it one way and it has a positive meaning, and you read it another way and it has a negative meaning. So it's almost like we're getting a two-in-one, like two completely different poems, which just happen to be to sound exactly the same. So the first one, asaddo. Asaddo literally means one who has no faith. And there's two ways of taking this. One is as one who is beyond faith, which means that they have practiced the Buddha's teachings to the point where they directly know for themselves the same thing the Buddha realized. So at that point, someone can said to be beyond faith because they no longer need faith because they know directly for themselves. So faith is not relevant to an awakened being because they just know. They've touched it for themselves. They feel it for themselves. And asaddo can also mean simply one who has no faith. So one who has no faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And the next one, akatanyu cha. So akatanyu, again, it can have two meanings. One is one who knows the unmade. So this is one of the terms for nibbana, the unmade, that which is not concocted, that which is not constructed, that which is not composed of conditional phenomena. So one who knows the unmade is someone who directly knows nibbana, who's attained full awakening. And the double meaning of akatanyu is ungrateful. So katanyu can also mean gratitude. That's the more common meaning of this word. So akatanyu means one who is ungrateful. And the next one, sandit chedo chayo naro. So naro means a person. And sandit chedo, again, has a double meaning. So sandhi means union or a junction or a bond or a promise. And cheda means cutting or breaking. So sandit chedo, the positive meaning is one who has cut all of their attachments. They've cut off all of their attachments in the world. The alternate meaning of sandit chedo is one who breaks their promises, one who causes division and disharmony. So again, there's these two completely opposite meanings. Similarly, with the next verse, hatavakaso vantaso. So hatavakaso, again, one way of taking this is someone who has expelled defilement. So in this case, avakasa is a word for defilement of mind, a corruption of mind. And hata means destroyed or eliminated. So hatavakaso means you've removed your defilements. You've destroyed the defilements of mind. And the other meaning of this is avakasa can also mean opportunity. So hatavakaso means you've ruined your opportunity. You've missed your chance. So for example, someone who has the opportunity to practice Buddhism, but instead spends their time chasing sensuality or ordinary worldly goals instead. Such a person can be said to have destroyed their own opportunity. And the next word, vantaso, again has two meanings. So vanta means to reject or cast out something. It actually comes from the verb vamati, which means to vomit. So to vomit out something means to expel it, to reject it, to cast it away. And asa means longing or aspiration. So this is actually my name, Suddhaso. Second part, aso, is the same word here, which means aspiration or longing. So vantasa, the positive meaning is someone who has rejected longing. They've discarded longing, which is a synonym for desire or craving. And the negative sense is someone who has given up their aspirations. They've given up their spiritual quest. So for example, in my name, Suddhaso, is one who has a pure aspiration, whose spiritual quest is pure. But in this case, vantaso would be someone who has given up their spiritual aspiration. And this last line, save uttama pariso. So this also has two meanings. So uttama pariso can mean the ultimate person, the highest person, the best person. But the alternate meaning here is it can also mean a person in complete darkness. So uttama, we normally take it as meaning the utmost or the best. But tama by itself means darkness. So uttama can mean immersed in darkness, lost in darkness. So here we have, again, two completely different meanings to the same verse. So taking it in the positive sense, we have one who is beyond faith, who knows the unmade, who has severed all ties, has expelled defilement, and has rejected longing. This is truly the best person. So that's one translation of this verse. And then the negative one would be translated as one who is faithless and ungrateful, a promise breaker who has ruined their opportunity and given up their aspiration. Such a person is in total darkness. See, it sounds like two completely different poems, but in Pali, it's actually exactly the same. So this is actually one of the reasons why I really like this verse is it demonstrates the Buddha's mastery of language. and that the Buddha composed this little poem with this like incredibly beautiful mirrored meaning. So with one poem, he gave two completely different teachings, which I find just absolutely stunning. And it's very rare to see something like this in any language. So coming across it in the Pali canon is a real delight. And I'm not sure how clearly this is explained in, has anybody seen this actually explained in any Dhammapada translation? The double meaning of these verses? No? Yeah. I mean, this one stands out. And the Buddha very often uses double meanings and puns and wordplays in his teachings. But this particular Dhamma verse, so Dhammapada number 97, it stands out as a particularly masterful example of double meaning. So that's the last of the Dhammapada verses to speak about this morning. So at this time, we can pay respects to the suttas of three sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And if you have any questions related to these verses, I can take your questions at this time. So hello to all the people joining in online. Hello to John, Vivian, Jayanta, Apon, Kumu, Metta, Krishna, Richard, Matthias, Wen, Niranjan, Yankee, SB, Amaranta, Che, Morgana, Gita, Hum, and Guy. Hello to all of you. And Niranjan has a question, but it's off topic. It's not related to these verses. So Niranjan, it would be better to bring that question to Monk Chat this evening. So this evening we have our regular weekly Monk Chat, which is your chance for random questions.
I have a request for comment. When you read all the suttas, you find Dhammapada verses all over the place. And so what's your perspective about like what percentage of Dhammapada verses are directly from the suttas?
I've never even thought about it. Yeah, quite a number of the Dhammapada verses, as you mentioned, are found in other suttas as well. But I've never bothered to calculate these things.
Is it a theory perhaps then that like the idea of the Dhammapada was essentially taking the verses from the suttas and putting them in one spot?
I've heard that before, and that makes a lot of sense. Like the Buddha almost certainly didn't sit down and just one day he just said the whole Dhammapada and that was it. But rather, I think that these are things where on many different occasions the Buddha would give these short poetic teachings. And I suspect often as part of a larger teaching, like he might talk for an hour or two, and then somewhere in the midst of that, he would have one of these cute little poems. And then after the talk, people remember the poem because it's short, it's memorable, it's cute. So I actually strongly suspect that there's a tremendous amount of the Buddha's teachings that have been lost in time. And what's kept is the most memorable parts. And the Dhammapada is, in my opinion, it's probably a collection of these like little memorable fragments of the Buddha's teachings.
It's kind of like at the end of like the Vinaya sections, it'll have like verses like to remember.
Yeah. Yeah. And John says, if no one has documented the double meanings of poems like this, would you be willing to on Sutta Central? Actually, this chapter of the Dhammapada is on Sutta Central. So I've posted so far about a quarter of the Dhammapada on Sutta Central. And in the comments section, I explain the double meaning of the verses. But as far as I know, currently Sutta Central does not make the comments public. So you can't actually see the comments unless you're one of the translators on Sutta Central. And even then you have to like dig through it to find it. It's not convenient. So I've already done this, but if you want it to actually be visible, you'll need to talk to the admins of Sutta Central and ask them to make comments visible. So can't help you on that one. I don't run Sutta Central. Richard says, what characteristics can help the mind become more like the earth? The number one is equanimity. So paying full attention to one's experiences without reacting. So it's important to remember that equanimity means to look closely at one's experience without reacting. So it doesn't mean apathy or ignorance or carelessness. It actually means a very careful, close attention, which sees things exactly as they are without reacting. Just acknowledging that whatever you're experiencing is a perfectly normal part of reality. So this is the most important characteristic. So it's upekkha. So this close, non-reactive attention. That's what helps the mind to be like the earth. Patience also helps tremendously. Matthias says, what are your thoughts about the negative version? For example, what ungrateful refers to? Actually, I just take ungrateful in a more general sense, just someone who lacks gratitude, who is not grateful for what others have done for them. So the Pali word that I translated as gratitude, katanyu, literally means one who knows what's been done. So kata means done, and the suffix nyu is actually related to the root nya. Nyu means one who knows. So katanyu means one who knows what's been done, one who acknowledges what's been done for them. So gratitude quite simply means acknowledging what others have done for you. If you just take things for granted and with a sense of entitlement, it's like, then that's not being grateful. But if you acknowledge what others do for you and you appreciate it, then that's being grateful. So I don't think the Buddha is trying to pin down being ungrateful towards any specific thing, but rather the more general quality of being ungrateful in general. That's the last question from online. Anything else from in here? No? Okay. So we can go ahead and end the session with 3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And we'll see you this evening for monk chat.